Earlier tonight, I had an opportunity to talk to Jeremy from Financial Education. Now, if you don't know, Jeremy makes YouTube videos. He's been doing it for a very long time. He's an OG in the investor community on YouTube. My first question to Jeremy was, why are you not invested into SoFi? And what you're about to see is the full segment talking about SoFi, where Jeremy is sharing some of his opinions and takes and rationale as to why he's not into SoFi. And I'm trying to dig a little bit deeper into that rationale. Now, this segment is a portion of a longer interview, which I'll be posting in full tomorrow, but I wanted to post this particular segment early just because I know a lot of people follow me for SoFi content, and I thought it was one of the more interesting segments in the interview. Enjoy. All right, question number one. Why are you not invested in SoFi yet?
Yeah, tough decision. So it's interesting.
Right there.
SoFi, literally last night, I was looking into potentially creating my first SoFi account. Actually, I'm looking at them for either doing maybe a CD, but probably a savings account with
Okay.
SoFi because I like to have my money kind of spread around a little bit, especially after what happened with some of the regional banks and whatnot. You never know. And so I was thinking about putting like 50K in SoFi savings. And so I'm probably going to create an account with SoFi, going to experience the product maybe over this next few months. It's one thing to like look at a company and, read about it and, oh, they got all these different things. It's another to kind of like get into the product, experience it. How do they reach out, emails, upsells, like all those sorts of things. I'm really interested to kind of become a customer and see how things go there. But bottom line, obviously, is not in a good place still. It might get in a better place soon. I think I was already in too many bottom line bad companies to begin with. Certainly going into last year, I was not in a good position, like, 21 into 2022. And so I'm really trying to watch risk exposures in terms of like new stocks that are, let's call it money losers on the bottom line. That's really what it comes down to. But we'll see once I experience the product, if their financials start coming around, especially with student loans coming back. And I think it definitely has potential, but we'll see. It also really comes down to when it comes to SoFi, how is it going to be valued long term? And I think that's a question I'm still trying to figure out. Is this going to be valued like a bank? Because banks trade at 10, 11, 12 Ps, 8 Ps, like it's a joke, right?
Right.
If SoFi is going to trade like that, then it's going to be tough sledding for years, but if it trades like a high growth company, there's obviously room for multiple expansion.
Okay, so first let me start off by saying that, I've been following your channel for a while, even before I was making content of my own. So I'm a little bit familiar with the style of, I got to get to know the product first and foremost. Myself, I come from a product management background. That's what I do in my day job, working in the tech space as a product manager and just validating what the user experience is and how we can optimize that. So I totally get that aspect. Unfortunately, being in Canada, I can't really try SoFi's product myself. I have played around with the app, but I can't open, an app. I think the savings account is really a tantalizing first value proposition just because of the APY that it offers. So that's going to be good. And I'm actually curious to see if you're going to cross buy into something like even low stakes, like a relay or something like that. But, I think the profitability point is huge. And that's why a lot of institutions are staying out. That's why a lot of analysts are, downgrading the stock or maybe not as bullish as they should be on the stock on just the growth prospects alone, not even the member growth, the revenue growth, but the cross-selling flywheel, like the moat that they have formed across all of these different product lines and how synergistic they are together, even if it is as a form of reducing your APY. They have an entire tech platform where they can vertically integrate and do that. But the street is really looking at bottom line, and it sounds like you're fairly the same. But is that simply a number of, let's say Q4, once they hit that profitability at the end of this year, when they report in January, is that the thing that, you see positive EPS on the bottom line, or do you want to see it for several quarters, or what's your thinking around that?
Once it gets super close to that flipping, or once they officially flip, I think that will be a big moment. And then it's about kind of, for me, projecting out like what I expect that net income to go up over the future years, because I also have to have a strong opinion of that. If
Right.
I'm kind of like still in a place of like cluelessness, like I don't know, like are they going to do 50 million a quarter, $100 million in net income a quarter? That's the other component I got to figure out there, because then I can work backwards, because I'll create 5 different cases usually when I invest in a stock. I have a super bearish case, a super bullish case, a bullish case, bearish case, and like a base case, right? And I've got to be able to at least, an educated guess of what I think their their potential 5-year out net incomes can be, revenues can be. Once I can do that, then I can work backwards and be like, oh, I'm paying this sort of market cap for this. And so that goes back to like Tesla back in the day.
Right.
You know, I invested in Tesla when it was seen as a very, very risky company back in, I think it was 2018, 2019.
Right.
But I was able to run numbers and projections about like, I think they can sell this many cars at this price. I think they'll have gross margins of this as they, reach scale and whatnot. And I was able to work backwards. And, at that time, I think Tesla was trading at like a $40 billion market cap or 30 billion or something like that. And work backwards and be like, oh my gosh, based upon where I think this company's net income's going 5 years out, this is a steal deal.
Right.
I've got to be able to do that with SoFi. If I can't do that with SoFi, then it remains one of those stocks I'm kind of just keeping an eye on, but don't own.
So let me push back on that a little bit because, for example, just Tesla, since you brought it up, when you invested in Tesla, they weren't bottom line profitable at that point. And so there was some forecasting that went into what is their future growth going to look like in terms of when they turn into that profitability. Because one of the points that, I want to make sort of as a counterpoint is by the time they print positive on the bottom line, the word is out. The stock has already pumped, like you saw with Palantir, for example, it went from 7 to like 18 based on 2 quarters. Like the street, that's what they're waiting for. And that's when they pile in. So you want to be able to front run that. You said profitability for SoFi, and I totally respect that. But that's a rule that you've broken for Tesla. So is it just the market environment is different today than it was in 2018, 2019?
So, I mean, interest rates are certainly in a little bit of a different place now. But I think the main thing is with Tesla, I could run my projections and feel confident that these projections are somewhat realistic. With SoFi, I'm not there yet, where I can run projections 3 years out, 5 years out, and be like, I think this is what they're doing. That's another part that keeps me on the sideline. It's like got battered last year, plus you add on top, like, I'm not too sure about myself yet. And that could change. 3 months could go by and then I have a better grip of the company and I have a better understanding of here's where I think they're going. I've listened to the last several conference calls of SoFi, and the conference calls have actually impressed me quite a bit. I mean, when I first started hearing about the company and looking into it, I thought, oh, this must be some app that, kind of like a Robinhood type deal, like, oh, it must be like kids. And then you kind of find out about the credit scores, and people have phenomenal credit scores that use SoFi, and the average net worths and those sorts of things, and average incomes in it. Yeah, it slowly starts to win you over. It's just got to be able to project out those numbers.
So let me dig a little bit deeper into that. You said that with Tesla, you became increasingly confident in the fact that they would continue on this growth trajectory and eventually hit that profitability. What was the thing that made you more confident in terms of your understanding and overall, just in terms of your willingness to go in, even though they were unprofitable? Like, is it just trying out the product and you think your opinion is going to change after you get, the savings product, or something else?
There's a lot of factors that went into Tesla, but the overwhelming biggest factor was Sandy Munro. And Sandy Munro, very, obviously some people might know him, some people might not, but like a car expert in breaking down cars. And I remember this was either 2018 or 2019, but he broke down the Model 3. And he was going into the Model 3 in terms of how smart Tesla was doing everything and how, they were integrating everything into one screen versus all these other companies were trying to do all these buttons and just causing a lot of confusion. And he went into a few different other parts. It was at that moment where you have an actual expert in that industry. He was basically saying like Tesla's going to end up, once they get to scale, this is going to be a far more profitable vehicle than, anything we're really used to. And so when you hear an expert say something like that, and he was talking about the margins back then and those sorts of things, like the margins Tesla can hit, that's when you can start to become a little more confident and then start to project some numbers. And you add a few things on top of that. But that was the overwhelming thing for me personally, that I was like, oh, wow, like Tesla is onto something. Okay.
So what do you think will be the equivalent of that for SoFi, let's say? Is it just more due diligence? Is it, you want to come on SoFi Weekly one week and we can pitch it to you? Or what do you think?
That might be interesting. It might have to go on SoFi Weekly one week, but yeah, that might be helpful. And just more DD in general, I think would be helpful to kind of get to a place where, I can figure out, okay, SoFi's a steal deal here, or no, it's not as much of a deal as people might think. So because right now I can't say either way. Well, by the way, why is SoFi not in Canada? What's going on with that?
Man, Canada is so oligopolized, especially from a banking and telco perspective. It's restrictive of free competition, and it's ridiculous from a consumer because you have these oligopolies just jacking up prices and cornering the market.
Dang, okay.
So if I were SoFi, and I would say, okay, you have a population of what, like 35 million, and you have all of these regulations, and the government is stifling you. Like, the juice is not worth the squeeze. Why would we expand there?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. Is SoFi interested in going to any new markets anytime soon? Because I don't remember hearing anything on the latest conference calls unless I missed it.
So LATAM is always a big focus. They also have licenses for Hong Kong and UAE. Dubai is a big area where big money is. for
Mhm.
them to expand. But their acquisition of Technisys back in 2021 helps them cross sell into Latin America.
Okay, I got you.
Jeremy, if you think of the market penetration just in the US alone, SoFi is a company that has like 6 million members in a population of like what, 350 million people?
Yeah,
They
very
have so much
small.
to go. Why would they focus on international when they literally have the entire US market just there?
Yeah, 100%.